For many centuries, humanity has looked to the water for sustenance. We have fished the rivers, lakes, and oceans, but we have also learned to cultivate them. This practice, known as aquaculture, is an ancient art, with roots that stretch back thousands of years. In many parts of the world, particularly across the vast continent of Asia, it was a way of life. For generations, communities lived in harmony with the water, raising fish in ponds and flooded fields. This was farming, but with fins and gills instead of fur and feathers. It was a gentle partnership with nature, a quiet revolution taking place beneath the surface. The effects on the world around them were so small, in fact, that they were seen as a natural part of the landscape. The ponds and waterways were productive, providing essential protein for countless families. The methods were passed down, a tradition built on observation and a deep understanding of the local ecosystem. My own journey began in this world. I was fascinated by these systems, how a simple pond could become a thriving ecosystem, how the waste from one organism could become food for another. It was a perfect, cyclical dance of life. I saw that aquaculture wasn't just about producing food, it was about managing a living system. This quiet, steady history was about to be interrupted. A new chapter was beginning, one that would change the industry and the world forever. It was during the 1980s and 1990s that aquaculture stepped onto the global stage in a dramatic new way. Production didn't just increase, it exploded. Local, small-scale practices transformed into a massive global industry. This rapid expansion caught the eye of environmentalists, regulators, and everyday consumers. The focus fell on two success stories. In the tropics, vast coastal areas were converted into ponds for farming penaeid shrimps. In the north, marine net pens filled with salmon dotted the coastlines. These industries grew at a breathtaking pace, symbolizing both the potential of aquaculture and its peril. With intensification came a fundamental shift. The industry evolved into something that consumed natural resources on an industrial scale. We began to speak in terms of intensity. How many fish could we raise in a given space? Farming tilapia at a density of 100 kilograms per cubic meter is considered intensive culture. But so also is the culture of shrimp at 50 individuals per square meter in ponds. The most significant characteristic of increasing intensity is the inputs, which increase with stocking densities. The greater the energy put into a system, the more environmental resources it consumes, and the greater the output of metabolic wastes. These principles lie at the heart of the increasing environmental costs that accompany increasing culture intensity. It was a moment to ask, at what cost does this progress come? To understand the impact, we must think in terms of energy. Aquaculture consumes two forms, both derived from the sun: fuels and the energy stored in food chains. Natural aquatic ecosystems are self-supporting. Nutrients are recycled. Energy comes from the sun, and they are characterized by long, complex food webs. But approximately only 10% of energy is transferred from one level to another in a food chain. A lot of energy is lost. It's lost through metabolism, metabolic wastes, reproduction, and heat. Therefore, the production of carnivorous species will be inefficient, and productivity per unit area will be very poor. It is for this reason that in parts of the world where aquaculture is a major source of animal protein, it is done extensively and involves species that feed low in the food chain. Look at the production pyramid in China. It's built on a massive foundation of herbivorous and omnivorous carp. In many developed countries, the demand is more for what are regarded as quality products, such as top-level carnivores. The pyramid in Japan is inverted, focused on high-value predators. These fish must be fed high-protein feed derived from other fish. Thus, one kind of less valuable seafood is used to produce one with a higher value, with the consequent loss of energy. The environmental impacts of aquaculture are greatly dependent upon the nature of farming practiced. This is defined by the aquaculture intensity, which we can divide into extensive and intensive. Extensive aquaculture is largely a part of a natural ecosystem, depending upon it for food and water quality. External inputs are limited. In intensive systems, inputs like food and oxygen are provided externally, and outputs like wastes are dealt with externally. Semi-intensive aquaculture combines some of the characteristics of both. It usually relies on natural productivity to some extent, but supplements it. Supplementation can include artificial aeration, the addition of fertilizers, or the addition of artificial feeds. Yields from semi-intensive aquaculture are intermediate. For example, shrimp production is from 500 to 5,000 kilograms per hectare, bridging the gap between the two extremes. The most significant environmental impacts are directly linked to the intensity of the culture method. Extensive systems can lead to habitat destruction and resource conflicts. While intensive systems create concentrated effluent anoxic sediments and the ever-present risk of escapes of non-indigenous species. Different aquaculture systems are defined by their technologies. Most of global production uses traditional static ponds, with no water exchange. Open systems, like cage culture, confine the stock within large water bodies, relying on natural currents to maintain water quality. Semi-closed systems, like ponds and raceways, have a controlled exchange of water, greater than static, but less than open systems. Finally, recirculating systems provide minimal connection with the environment, treating and reusing almost all of their water in situ. A more sophisticated approach is polyculture, the deliberate co-culture of several complementary species. It mimics a natural food web. In classical Chinese carp culture, each species occupies a different niche. Grass carp eat plants, silver and bighead carp filter plankton, and mud and common carp feed on benthic animals and detritus. In polyculture, a greater proportion of the primary production is utilized, increasing productivity and efficiency. Integrated aquaculture takes this a step further, combining fish farming with other agricultural production, like the ancient practice of rice fish farming. This practice provides a multiple crop and can even increase the yield of the rice. In developed countries, this is being adapted, with filter-feeding mollusks held adjacent to intensive marine farms to capture waste and create a second crop. These systems are designed to eliminate waste, turning the outputs from one process into the inputs for another, creating a sustainable, long-term, and highly productive farm. The quantities of water consumed by aquaculture are a critical part of its environmental story. Water use depends on the culture intensity and the system. Consumptive use, loss to seepage and evaporation, is much higher in ponds than other systems. Semi-intensive and intensive ponds can require thousands of cubic meters of water per day for exchange, leading to conflicts. Conflicts have arisen when large quantities of fresh water are pumped, causing land to subside and salt water to intrude into aquifers, rendering it unsuitable for agricultural use. When food material is sourced externally, this can have impacts far beyond the culture facility. The area of the external support ecosystem, the ecological footprint, can be many thousands of times greater than that of the aquaculture facility itself. Intensively farmed species are usually fed a manufactured feed. For carnivores, these feeds contain significant quantities of fish meal and fish oil. This is derived from fish that are caught specifically for this purpose, putting a significant impact on world fisheries. The journey from trillions of fish to a sustainable future is a journey of understanding these impacts and innovating to solve them. It's about creating closed loops, developing sustainable feeds, and designing systems that work with nature's principles, not against them. My journey has taught me that we can have a blue revolution that is truly blue, one that nourishes humanity while protecting the health of our planet's waters for all the generations to come.